Hello, everybody. So today I want to talk about CAVA. CAVA stock. CAVA is a stock I've covered in the past. I've always found it too expensive. Right now, it's down minus 16 to 17%. Is it finally a buy? Is it finally the time to step into CAVA? No financial advice, of course. So why am I covering CAVA today? Because you may be surprised, right? There's a lot of issues with this type of business, which is a food business, right? CAVA is a Mediterranean / Middle Eastern / Greek food business, which generally in the US they call it like Mediterranean, kind of like this big spin, different from Italian, right? But more of a Middle Eastern type food and Greek food. Anyways, it's a physical business. Why do I cover a physical business when I know full well they can't grow very fast? They can't scale very fast. Why? Because you're dealing with brick and mortar and leases. You're dealing with permits. You're dealing with building time. You're dealing with health codes and permissions to sell and set up and permissions to open. That moves at the speed of the analog world. That moves at the speed of the 20th century. So that's why I typically don't like this type of businesses. Also, there's very big labor costs, although they're working on that with automation. I'll get to that at the end of the video, but you still have very big labor costs. You're eating labor essentially when you're eating at CAVA. It's a minimum wage in some states is much higher than the $7.25. But either way, nobody practices minimum wage anymore. It's very high wages now for a lot of this. Labor costs add up. They really add up, and you always have union threats, and you always have sentiment. You know, we go through the Starbucks story like every other year. You have Starbucks dropping because of possible union threats and strike threats. And then you have the issue of high valuation with this type of food stocks. The high valuation, why is that a problem? Why are they expensive usually? Well, my idea as to why these food stocks are expensive is because we all eat food, and typically it's going to be tasty, and so we all get food, we all understand food, and so it's kind of like small businesses. One of the top ideas for a small business is to launch a restaurant. Everybody has that idea because everybody eats food, and of course these businesses are very popular, but they also very widely understood. The thesis under these businesses is widely understood, and therefore they tend to trade at a premium. But the reason why I want to talk about CAVA today is because it reminds me a lot of Chipotle in the early days. And why is Chipotle important in this context? Because if you can smell the hipness, if you can smell the trendy thing, 10 years later, you can expose yourself to great returns. Do you remember Chipotle in the early 2010s, late 2000s? Lines out of the door, extremely popular. They had found this cool way to make a 2,000-calorie burrito look healthy and look cool. And of course, if you had bought back then in those early days of Chipotle, you would be sitting on a nice 64 times your money. A nice 64 times your money over 18 years. Okay, so over a long time period, but still 64x. It's not too bad. An average annual return of 24.5%. It's actually higher than that. The reason why the Chipotle return is looking bad right now is because the stock, Chipotle, has dropped quite a bit since the beginning of the year, like 30+% down. Just like CAVA. CAVA is actually down way more than Chipotle since the beginning of the year. CAVA is down nearly 50% since the beginning of the year, more than 50% since December. So this stock has had a steep decline, a steep discount in the past 6 months. And I believe it's mostly sector-wide. We'll see in a second. That has mostly to do with the sector rather than the market itself. Indeed, I looked at Shake Shack, and I looked at Chipotle, and I looked at Portillo's, which is like a Chicago firm. They all seem to be experiencing a slowdown in Q2. Right, and so that's interesting, right? I cover HIMSS too. HIMSS also had a slowdown in Q2. Is there something going on in the economy for these non-mandatory items or these discretionary items? Maybe, but I consider this to be a lot of macro, and of course I would because Shake Shack showed the same decline. So temporary hurdle, and of course you have it's not even a drop in the case of CAVA. It's just they grew only 2% year over year year for Q2, right? It's not a drop. They're still growing. But the market, punishes today that 2% quarter over quarter. The market punishes it by a minus 17% right now. But the long-term thesis, in my view, is not broken. The long-term thesis is, if you can grow same-store sales by an easy 10 to 15%, let's assume, but you also grow your restaurant count much faster. Let's assume you grow your restaurant count by, like 20% a year, assuming you can do that in the brick and mortar sector. Well, multiply the two, and you get a really high growth rate, right? You get a 36% plus growth rate potentially if you act on both the lever of growing the sales at the restaurant and growing the restaurant count, and they're also turning on the profitability. I am very compelled by the profit margin of CAVA. I'm actually impressed. I will get to that in a second, but that stuff is profitable when you will see the prices. Anyways, let's talk about the concept. What I like about the concept is that this is not another burger company, and burger companies, if you've been living in the US, every 3 to 5 years you have a new trendy burger company. I remember you had what was it called? You had Five Guys, and then you had Shake Shack, and there's a few other ones right now that are like very popular, but I can't, Upper Dealers or something. Anyways, the burger company, you have a lot of competition with burgers. What I like about CAVA is that they are entering a space where the competition is mostly mom and pop stores. Kind of like immigrant businesses. You just arrive. Entrepreneurship is the way, and what's most ideas of entrepreneurship? If you ask a young entrepreneur, they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna make food. I'm gonna make food of my own country." And of course, Chipotle, in my opinion, when I look at Chipotle, they disrupted a lot of a mom and pop Mexican shops, not the fancier Mexican restaurant, but your very fast casual Mexican that used to be local owned. Chipotle did a lot of that disruption, and a lot of the other, like Freebird is another one. A lot of the stores did a lot of damage in the mom and pop store. I view CAVA, Mediterranean food, doing the same damage in a lot of mom and pop stores that sell gyros, right? You see this, you go to strip malls, right? You go to every strip mall, you probably have one, gyro / Middle Eastern food. You can see, this is, I believe, a falafel. I think that's it. Yeah, falafel crunch. That's what this is. You can see hummus. I think this is a lamb, a thing of lamb. I think this is Greek food. Anyways, you see this in strip malls all across America. This type of food is usually a mom and pop store, a local store. And now you have CAVA, who's coming and who's disrupting and who's making it cool. And I researched CAVA. It's very TikTok friendly. It's very Instagram friendly. A lot of Gen Z want to spend $20 on a lunch at CAVA. And you see this very, very clearly in social media. And imagine filming your TikTok reel right there. And of course, CAVA really understands who they're catering to. So this is kind of a promo that they have right now. I think this is their harissa lunch. I think it's $18 or $19 before tax. And they give you it's not a tortilla chip. I think it's a pita chip. They give you like a pita chip keychain or whatever. This probably costs less than $1. They probably had it manufactured at scale, and then you have a playbook. You're like, collect them all. Come for lunch 4 times, spend $100 with tax, maybe more with a drink, because you're gonna get a drink with that, and then you can get your 4 different, Instagram friendly. I don't really know. I think plushies are they called? I don't know what they're called. The point is, this is very clever marketing. This is marketing that's absolutely targeted towards Gen Z. This is turning a product, which I don't know how much a gyro costs these days, but memories from my youth. Isn't this like $7 or $6? How much do you think a gyro is at CAVA? It's not $7. It's not $6. It's 3 times as much. And I'll get to that in a second. So you take a concept that's typically mom and pop, typically small business. You've Instagramified it. You've TikToked it. You've made it cool. You've made it fancy. You've structured it. And you follow the modern day codes, and you can really have a company that's going to take over a lot of the mom and pop shops. This is kind of the way I see it, because food, unfortunately, a lunch is a lunch. People are not going to eat 2 lunches, right? So anyways, competitive stuff. Guidance. What's the guidance? Some good, some bad. The guidance is they're planning on opening restaurants. They're planning on opening restaurants quicker this year, and so that's pretty good. But what does that mean too? That means that over the short term, you are maybe going to have a little bit less EBITDA. The market doesn't like that. They want to see profits now. So that's an aspect of that. Profit margin is still the same guide. Growth, they're getting a little down because they had a soft Q2. Opening costs are going up. I wonder if that has to do with the speed of the opening. Typically, the faster you want to go, the more the costs go up. But overall, the guidance is mixed. Some good, some bad. But nothing much has changed in this company. So the minus 17% in after hours, to me, that's only an artifact of the market being wary and the market selling off everything. If you look at the call, if you study the call, so you can see they gave, I guess for a physical sector, this is good guidance. They gave a guidance of 1,000 restaurants by 2032, citing strong demand. Right now, I looked it up on Google. They have 382 restaurants right now. So 382 to 1,000 in 2032. So we're talking about, 6.5 years from now. Yeah, in brick and mortar, this is like a lot of growth, right? But for a lot of the businesses that I cover on the channel that are not operating in brick and mortar sector, this doesn't grow fast enough. But for the sector, this is high growth. And we're probably above 400 on restaurants now. I'm not so sure, but this is 2.5x in a 6.5 year period. You have to build the stores. I don't know how long it takes to build a store, but it takes a while to build in the physical world. And so they're guiding for that growth. They're excited for that growth. But of course, I think the same-store sales growth is going to have a bigger impact. This caught my attention. They are going to sell in the United States this chicken shawarma. And so this is, when you look it up, you can see this looks very much like Turkish cuisine, which is a very popular, I think, in Germany. There's a lot of that in Germany. The point is this is another mom and pop sector that may not be entirely Mediterranean, because I guess my still partially European mind identifies this as Turkish, but I guess it's Lebanese too. So maybe in the US they're going to market it as Mediterranean. But this is another enormous mom and pop business that CAVA could take over, right? So you add up the gyro, you add up the falafel, you add up the hummus, you add up the what they call in Europe kebab, what they call, I guess, in the US shawarma. You add that up, you have an enormous market of mom and pop businesses that could be entirely disrupted by this highly efficient machine that in CAVA. And it's a highly efficient machine both in a marketing standpoint, because look at the price that they are able to charge. I mean, and this is before tax, right? And keep in mind, oftentimes there's fees too. It's not the price you see in the U.S. Like in California, don't they add 4% for like labor training costs, and then you gotta add tax, and sometimes you have all sorts of taxes added. So 1888, that's gonna be more than $20 at the register, right? Okay, I guess the Greek salad is pretty cheap, I guess. But if you look at the lamb avocado, that's $19.99. So this after tax, you're going to be at $23, right? Steak and harissa, that's $18. So I mean, when you walk in, you're dropping more than a $20 bill. Like that's the marketing machine for lunch. It's crazy. This is a huge marketing machine, and we're still able to grow sales at these prices. This is a very much an outstanding marketing machine, if you ask me. I said earlier, in my mind, a gyro was like $7 or $6. from the little that I remember, in my student days. What is it? 1888, so it's gonna be $20. $20 for that. That's why I told you I love these profit margins. And you know what's gonna make me love the profit margins even more is they talk about their investment, and Chipotle is gonna implement that as well. Look at what this is. This is a robot that literally makes the bowl or makes the gyro or whatever it's going to make it, right? And so you can see you have your pre-cut foods items, and instead of having a person on the other side putting the food in your bowl and serving you your bowl or your burrito or whatever, this is the machine making it. And and it's a company from 2024. I recommend you go look at their video. It's pretty darn stunning. I can imagine a highly profitable business where you have everything automated, everything connected through APIs. These prices, by the way, I get from Uber Eats. This is your Uber Eats. So you can imagine a button. Somebody orders a lamb and avocado bowl on Uber Eats for $19.99 plus $3.99 shipping, whatever. And of course, Uber Eats is connected to CAVA, and just CAVA and Uber Eats. So Uber Eats, you place your order automatically. This order goes into this machine, which is also connected by an API, and boom, it makes the bowl. And then all you need to do is you take the bowl, you put it in a bag, you put it on the counter, you wait for the Uber Eats driver until that driver, of course, is replaced by a Robo Taxi. I mean, the efficiency gains we're going to get in this brick and mortar business is going to be outstanding. And I think that maybe needs to be part of the thesis in investing in these physical companies. Physical world companies are beginning to have aspects of purely or almost entirely digital businesses. When you start automating everything, you're starting to look more and more like an automated business. In the store, that can be the same thing, right? Because CAVA has an app, so you can just order in the app 5 minutes before you get to the store, and then you just walk in and pick it up because you paid with the app. No cashier interaction, and nobody made your food. Like this is from a margin standpoint, this is quite exciting, and this is why they have 23% margin. They could grow that by quite a bit, and I find that impressive. So anyways, here for the negative part, am I buying? Is it finally a buy as far as I'm concerned? And the answer to that is a very easy no, it's not. It's a very easy no, it's not, because enterprise value over gross profit over revenue growth is a 0.76. That's expensive in my world. Under 0.5 is expensive in my world, unless you're like the world's best businesses and absolutely must have business, like a Robin Hood, for example, or a Tesla. But if you're not in that league, to me, that's a little expensive. And that's crazy to say, because this stock used to be above a 1 on enterprise value over gross profit over revenue growth. So I find it a little expensive, although I find it more compelling than Shake Shack. If you really have to be in this business, I find CAVA to be much more compelling than Shake Shack. If it's a business that you have to invest in. I personally don't invest in the restaurant space. The only related investment that I have in space is Celsius. Celsius trades at a more attractive valuation than CAVA, as far as I'm concerned. But this stock, to me, otherwise, I mean, if you're not valuation sensitive, I think it has a lot of nice green flags. EBITDA margin actually went up. Gross margin actually went up. Forward revenue growth, I'm putting it at 26% next 12 months. I don't know. That may come down. It's a matter of estimates. We may see a slowdown in Q3. I don't really know what impacts spend, but that's over the long run. I believe in the thesis. Revenue growth has been very nice and consistent, and shares outstanding have not increased by much. This company has been reasonable in terms of stock-based compensation. So there's a lot to like, and it's much cheaper than it used to be. But to me, for me to be interested in buying this stock, it would have to drop another 20 to 30%, as far as I'm concerned, for me to be interested. The problem with these food companies is that everybody gets them. People understand food, people understand taste, and if they like the food, if they like something, it almost makes me wonder, you're at CAVA, you tried the food is good, why don't you get on the Robinhood app and buy, I don't know, 10 shares of CAVA or something. I don't know. Maybe that's part of the... Maybe they have a high retail following just because of that. So anyways, this was not investment advice. This is not financial advice. This is not food advice. This is only entertainment. I hope you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.